Welcome back, everybody. I'm Arthel Neville. We do it all the time. It's our jobs. We talk about politics at work. But should you be doing it in your office? Corporate campaign advisor and CEO, Miss Amy Showalter is here. Hi, Amy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am well, but you know, you're taught from day one, as soon as you can comprehend any sort of ways to approach social graces, you say don't talk about religion or politics at work. You're saying no, talk about politics at work. It might be good for business.
Absolutely, it's very good for business because what it does is it helps employees understand the mechanisms of how that business works. If we don't talk about the legislative issues and political issues that impact that company, how do we know the other external forces that impact the company? Because that's an external environment that companies have to manage, is that political environment.
So explain what you're telling me. Make me really understand what you're saying.
What I'm telling you is that companies that educate their employees about the issues that impact that company and then empower them on how to impact those issues and have a good, healthy, focused, is the key word, focused and directed dialogue on those issues, have employees.
Issues like what, for instance?
Issues like what goes on your menu at the restaurant and menu labeling, issues like access to different markets, access to abilities for companies to grow and to thrive, and just different legislative regulatory issues that are out there.
Okay, but within the issues within the company?
Yes,
or
company issues.
Oh, okay, I
Yes.
see. So so you're saying, I think when I meant politics, I immediately assumed that you're saying, no, go to the lunchroom and start talking about Governor Romney and start talking about President Obama and get into a fist fight. Why don't you?
Well, no, and that can happen occasionally with these programs, but we find out that the companies that do it the best make sure that they tell the employees, hey, here are the issues that impact us as a company, and legislators have views on those issues, and we want to let you know their views on those issues. You make your own decision. We're not telling you how to vote,
Gotcha.
who to vote for. That's key. There's fear. Some executives have a fear, and employees have a fear that, oh, the company's going to tell me how to vote.
Sure.
Good companies don't do that. But they do put the facts out there, both sides of the issue, and have a good, healthy dialogue on those issues.
So basically, I get it now. So you're saying that I'm the CEO of the company. Here are the goals of our company. Here's the mission of our company, and here's some legislation that's either in place or pending that it could benefit our company or kind of go against the grain of what we're doing. Just so you'll know.
Absolutely.
Take it however
Absolutely.
you wish. So you say fire up your employees. Fire them up.
Well, and we find that employees really need to focus on, and companies need to get their employees focused on what they have in common versus their differences. And one of the ways you can do that is through educating them on these issues going on in Congress and the state legislatures. Because in any economy, but especially in today's economy, what's good for that company and their ability to grow and thrive and get rid of some onerous regulations is good for that employee and for their family and good for the shareholders. So we want to make sure that employees are aware of that. And what I find in the companies that do this really well, it's a morale builder.
Yeah.
Because the employees realize we're in this together.
Right.
There are groups out there that oppose us, but we're in this together for our careers and our paychecks.
And that's what it seems like. What you do is you go in there, you help these corporations make the workplace a more democratic process, as opposed to this hierarchy that we're the boss, we're privy to this information, and that's that, and you're a worker, and you do what I say, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we find out again that the best examples of this are where companies have very branded kind of formal programs where employees might sit on a board of directors and comment on legislation and comment on political contributions. That happens as well, and that's very healthy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ones that I think, yeah, they do flourish for obvious reasons because they feel like they have a part of it. You say that stay away from hot button issues. So what are you talking about? Is that the one that I was saying, like you can go in there and talk about the presidential campaign?
Yes, I mean, what happens, the hot buttons are generally your social issues, your gun control, your abortion rights, those kinds of things. And I have seen organizations that have a real culture of political engagement on their issues. Sometimes the employees get overzealous and veer into those topics, but you just need to bring them back and remind them that we're here under the auspices of the XYZ company. We're all members of the party of XYZ, not the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party, or pro-choice, pro-life, that kind of thing. Keep them focused is the main thing. Right,
and in keeping them focused, but also understanding under those which seems like bridles, but not really, because within those bridles, it's a pretty broad spectrum of what they can talk about as to how it affects the company directly or indirectly.
Yes, and we find too that these programs are good for helping the employees understand how government works. The best programs teach them, here's how bills become law, here's how you make your voice heard, and here's how you influence and persuade, not just how you educate a lawmaker. So they're really empowering them and equipping them to get involved. And I've had many organizations tell me, what we did on this issue Now we can use it on these other issues, and my employees are using it in municipal issues and other things of concern to their families. So you're equipping them and giving them some skills too.
Have you faced really, really tough situations, challenges where you went in and morale was just horrible at a company because the employees felt like they were totally blocked from any sort of process and decision-making process in that particular company?
Yes.
Not necessarily,
happened.
not asking which, for
Yeah.
you to name the company, of course, but just sort of expound on that particular
Yeah.
scenario.
No, thank you. What happens generally is where employees feel like they don't have a voice when an executive usually takes control perhaps of their political action committee. That happens occasionally. You see that sometimes. And the political action committee board might be made up of just executives and not rank and file employees. It's not democratized, as we say. And sometimes there can be a perception there, real or imagined, that senior executives control these decisions, control what things are examined and so forth in the legislative arena. Now, they should have a big say in that, but there's also people in the trenches who, researchers, R&D people and so forth that are affected by legislation, and they can have great input on the impact to the company because they're on the ground dealing with it. So sometimes when it goes awry, it's because of too much senior management control.
And then when it works, I'm sure you, I'm going to assume here, which I normally don't, but I'm going to assume you've seen that TV show Undercover Boss.
Yes, I love that show.
I love that show
I cry
too.
at the end.
Me too.
Every time.
I do, every time they get me. But it's true though, you get the idea. It's kind of what you're talking about, what you do, and you go in there and try to sort of erase some of those lines of demarcation. And when the executive can come out of his fancy office or her fancy office and come and mingle with the employees and see what the real issues, the real struggles are, suddenly everybody can work together for a common goal to have a better company.
And they need to be reminded of this, executives and the rank and file. I think what happens is that corporations, and rightly so, they focus on some programs that emphasize differences because of inclusion, and I get that, I understand that, that's good. However, sometimes that tends to separate people. And we want to remind everybody that we have differences that we respect, but we're also members of the XYZ party, company party as well.
I agree. All righty. Very good stuff. Any final points you want to make before I say goodbye to you?
I would say just it's a good thing for companies to do. It actually builds esprit de corps and builds morale and builds a sense of unity among employees.
I don't have your website here. Shame on me.
Showaltergroup.com.
Showalter, SHOWALTER, Showaltergroup.com. In case you want to hire you, you did a good job explaining to me what was happening in the various scenarios that you're faced with. Okay, Amy Showalter, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.